Hello everyone, WETTER Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, May 19, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section, letting me know what the dad's been like in you recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related questions that you might have about the future weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at this post from Dr. Levi Cowan. He's actually the founder and creator of the website Tropical Tidbits, that very website that we all use to get the model forecasts and whatnot. And he actually posted the fact that he uploaded a video. We've been anticipating his video. We know he's been making forecasts and whatnot about the Atlantic for years now. He's one of the first persons on YouTube that I've ever followed in terms of tropical updates, and we know how accurate he can be. So I suggest that immediately after you finish watching this video, you go and check out his video. He posted it on his Twitter page and he also posted it on his YouTube page. Alright, so let us take a look at the forecast models, because we're still watching the fact that there's going to be an increase in the amount of rainfall across the Caribbean this week, and I want for you guys to focus your attention right here at the timestamp, the forecast hour and the date. Considering that this is the Euro model, we're going to be focusing our attention right here across the Caribbean. So we're about to go out in time. Just watch and see what exactly happens. So by the time we get into 15Z on Tuesday, and you calculate that, that's about 10 a.m. on Tuesday, we start to see the greens represent rainfall affecting portions of Jamaica. We start to see even an L, so maybe a broad area flow pressure starting to develop. And keep in mind that we're going out to the next 168 hours. That's the next 7 days, just like what the U.S. National Hurricane Center would do. Then look at that, even in Wednesday, we still see some amount of rainfall across the Jamaica area. A lot of greens, yellows in there as well, even across sections of the Bahamas, Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. And going out in time, even on Thursday, we're still seeing much of the same. Greens and even yellows that represent some amount of rainfall across portions of the Greater Antilles, including Jamaica. There's definitely going to be some amount of flash flooding taking place if this model verifies, and if there's some amount of consensus with the GFS model. So this is the end of the 168 hours, and we see that yes, we still have some amount of moisture across the Caribbean, but we clearly see that Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday are the days that we're going to be getting on that tremendous rainfall. What does the GFS model show for the same time period? So we're starting to go out in time. So this is Tuesday. We're not seeing much like what the Euro is showing, but getting into Wednesday, we're starting to see the moisture, the greens, even a little circle here that represents a broad airflow pressure. Starting to even see some yellows and some reds in there. This is 12Z on Wednesday. That's actually 7 a.m. on Wednesday. Look at all of the heavy rainfall to the south of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, to the southeast of Jamaica. And look what happens. Most of that is still being pushed up into the Dominican Republic and then should be to the north of the Caribbean by about Thursday evening. We'll see exactly what unfolds. We see that both the Euro and the GFS are disagreeing with where the system is going to be going by the end of the time frame, but clearly there is some amount of agreement with where the rainfall is going to be, definitely across portions of the Greater Antilles, including Jamaica. So we'll see exactly what unfolds. We've seen the accumulated precipitation forecast maps. We're a bit concerned over the next 7 days. We know how these things go, even although they're not set in stone. Look at this. This is the GFS model. Let's find out what the Euro model is showing at the same time frame. Alright, so here we go. Alright, so this is the Euro, this is the GFS. Now let's look at both of them side by side. So we're definitely seeing right here that we are getting in on those purples, even some burgundy colors. Remember yesterday most of this was more towards the east of Jamaica. We're seeing kind of meandering, so it's now more towards the east of the island. What does the GFS show for that time period? So within the next 7 days, this is where all the rainfall is expected according to the GFS. More so, especially towards the south and the east of Jamaica, especially across portions of the Dominican Republic. Right here, I see those burgundies and even yellows that represent up to what? To even what? Up to 12 inches of rainfall. As you can see, that's what the yellows represent. So it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what unfolds. We have the agreement that the fact that we're gonna be receiving some rainfall across the Greater Antilles, but the rainfall totals and the actual where is a bit kind of out there. We'll see exactly what unfolds, and I'll definitely be here to keep you posted as we go through what's expected. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can still see that the southeastern United States is still being dominated by the frontal system. We can see a trough right here represented by the broken red line, another trough right here, and as usual the high pressure right here that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see the clouds associated with the frontal system still affecting portions of the eastern United States and Florida, section of the northern Bahamas. We can see the low-level clouds being pushed from east to west across the Caribbean, all courtesy of the easterly flow of trade winds brought about by the ridge of high pressure. And we can also see that we have a lot of thunderstorm activities taking place across portions of Northern and South America. That's responsible for sending a lot of that upper-level winds to the northeast. We have that upper-level wind shear. This is something similar to what usually happens across the eastern Pacific. You have a lot of activity, a lot of storms, and that causes all of that upper-level wind shear to blast across the Caribbean, especially during the El Nino year. So we're seeing kind of example of that right here across the main development region. So if anything was to form right now across the main development region, it wouldn't be developing. The cloud tops would have definitely been torn apart. Alright, so we'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Sunday, May 19. It was stated that we would have received some amount of rainfall across sections of some western parishes in Jamaica on Sunday afternoon. And just for your information, western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. So Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At 4:05 p.m. a post was made on our Twitter page at Weather Jamaica. It was also made on our Instagram page at weather.jamaica, on our TikTok page at Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page at Weather Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So yes, the visible satellite images were posted, and it highlighted the fact that we had some isolated showers and even some thunderstorm activity across some western parishes, especially right there across northern St. Elizabeth, southern St. James. So the cockpit country definitely gotten on that thunderstorm activity. The lightning flashes, if not lightning strikes, are represented by these yellow dots right here. This is on the visible satellite image map. And we saw that the upper level winds were coming in from the northwest, and they were blowing those high cold cloud tops off towards the south and the east. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images from earlier today, we saw that yes, we had that buildup of cloud activity across inland areas of some central parishes, across western parishes as well. And then when those thunderstorms came in, we had those high cold cloud tops being blown out towards the southeast. Might have brought in on some amount of overcast skies to some southern parishes. But we can see it all even better on the infrared satellite images. The high cold cloud tops are represented by the blues, the greens, the yellows, the reds, and we see the sparkling white dots here that represent the thunderstorm activity. But we definitely had that across sections of southern St. James, northern St. Elizabeth, maybe even sections of southwestern Trelawney as well. If we take a look at the temperatures right now, we can say we have 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay and Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on Monday, temperature should dip down to about 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Monday. When you calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Monday. And we still see that Jamaica is going to be embedded in some orange colors that will now represent anywhere from 1 to up to even 4 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And we know the normal temperatures for the month of May across Jamaica are about the same as 89 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we take a look at the thermometer, 89 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 31 degrees Celsius. So if we should be receiving up to 4 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, it should be anywhere from 31 to at least 35 degrees Celsius at most. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know the dry air is represented by what we see on the key on the bottom, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we still see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows and some oranges that represent the dry air. So we still have a lot of dry air, even although we got a brief isolated thunder shower activity across the west today. There's still a lot of dry air across the Jamaica area, and we're still gonna be plagued by all of that in the coming week, especially considering that we have a lot of Saharan dust in the forecast. This map is valid for 2 p.m. on Monday, and we do see all of the browns represent the Saharan dust that should be plaguing the entire Caribbean. Jamaica is right here, smack dab in the middle of it. So we're definitely going to be receiving some amount of hazy skies. We can see the browns that represent the Saharan dust. So if you are affected by the dust, maybe your asthma, excuse me, your sinusitis might be affected, whatever the case may be, ensure that you have your meds ready. Alright, so taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing 12 o'clock on Monday. And we do see that we're going to be getting in on a mixture of those lighter shades of blues and those darker shades of blues that we can see surrounding the island. That represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave heights to 1.5 meter wave heights, and that's because the winds are not going to be that strong at all. We see more of a bluish greenish mixture with some brighter green mixture that we can see by the key on the bottom right that represents anywhere from 5 to 10 to even maybe up to 20 knot winds. And we see the general direction for the winds coming in from the east for the most part. We can also see that air is going to be piling up, especially across sections of some inland areas of some central and western parishes. So we know what usually happens. Those cumulus clouds become maybe mid-level rain clouds, if not some upper level cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds, just like what we had today. And we see this being shown on both the Euro and the GFS models. We see the consensus, and with the upper level winds forecast for tomorrow from the GFS 18Z to be coming in from the west. So we might see something different from what we had today. In today's on today's map, we saw that the upper level winds were blowing those high cold cloud tops up towards the south and the east. Tomorrow is more going to be coming in from the west, so any thunderstorm activity that develops across these areas that were highlighted, those high cold cloud tops are going to be blown off towards the east. So it's not going to be favoring any maybe northern parishes or southern parishes at all with the overcast skies if we get some thunderstorm activity. Either way, there's some amount of rainfall in the forecast. If we actually take a look at this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS, we see some amount of consensus that yes, there's gonna be some amount of rainfall surrounding the island. Look at that, some blues that represent rainfall to the north. But we also see the consensus that sections of eastern parishes in Jamaica could receive some morning rainfall. Where's that? Maybe sections of eastern Portland, sections of St. Thomas might get some morning rainfall, because this is valid for 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 a.m. Jamaica time. So there's definitely some early morning rainfall in the forecast. Skipping ahead to about 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 5 a.m. Jamaica time, we still see much of the same. Some dots of blues that represent rainfall across portions of eastern Jamaica. So St. Thomas, Portland might get in on some more rainfall by that time. Then finally, we take a look at the afternoon hours. This map is valid for 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And where do we see the blues that represent rainfall on both maps? We see that both maps are in consensus that there's gonna be some amount of rainfall across especially sections of some western parishes in Jamaica, especially across the north. Look at all of those darker shades of blues across western St. Anne, Trelawney, sections of St. James, Hanover, sections of Westmoreland, northern St. Elizabeth might get in on the mix. But there's some kind of discrepancy going on. Although we see it on the Euro model, the Euro is incorporating some blues that represent rainfall across sections of some southern and eastern parishes as well. We'll see exactly what unfolds. We know we have to look for the consensus. We have to look at what both maps are agreeing with. And we do see the agreement with section of Western Jamaica yet again. So we're indeed grateful. We're going to be receiving some amount of rainfall tomorrow, and both the accumulated precipitation forecast maps confirm this map from the Euro, this map from the GFS, and we see the consensus that Western Jamaica should be receiving most in the way of rainfall tomorrow. This map from the Euro showing up to at least 0.3 of an inch of rainfall, GFS showing up to at least 0.4 of an inch of rainfall, those darker yellows. We'll see exactly what unfolds. Either way, there's consensus, and we're indeed grateful. We're in the month of May. We usually receive up to 213 millimeters of rainfall during this month. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get to put some kind of a dent in the drought that some areas are currently experiencing. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have a lot of thunderstorm activities taking place across sections of northern South America. As usual, it's nothing new to them. We can see the clouds associated with the intertropical convergence zone. It's only a matter of time before all of this lifts northward, so that all of these tropical waves can start pushing into the Leeward and Windward Islands, possibly developing as they push westward. But we all know all of this wind shear that's pushing in from the west has to die down first. You can see clouds associated with frontal system still bring somewhat of thunderstorm activity to sections of the southern and eastern United States, including Florida, the Bahamas. We saw brief thunderstorm activity across sections of Cuba today as well. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean from earlier today, we can see that yes, right now we don't see much happening across the Leeward Islands, but we do see some rainfall right there offshore Puerto Rico. And if we put these images into motion, we can see where we had that rainfall today. So sections of northwestern Puerto Rico, sections of the US Virgin Islands, we see some rainfall right there to the west of Dominica. If we even take a look at the Barbados radar, we do see that even sections of Barbados getting on some amount of rainfall today, just like what was predicted in yesterday's video. A lot of this rainfall pushing into sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines even as we speak, and there's a lot more where that came from going into tomorrow. Even sections of Trinidad and Tobago getting on some amount of rainfall as we speak too. Taking a look at the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall that we just mentioned across sections of Cuba, as well as sections of Florida. Even some of that rainfall to the west of there that's expected to continue to affect Florida. And even if we skip southward, we can see some of that rainfall across sections of Colombia, Suriname, and French Guiana as well. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday, and we see the yellows and the orange colors that still should be plaguing the eastern to the western Caribbean and to the Gulf of Mexico, getting even more intense where we see these reds and those even black colors that represent up to even 60, even 8 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures across Central America. Even sections of central portions of the United States should be getting in some way above normal temperatures as well. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Monday, we do see the string of Saharan dust still coming in from Africa across the main development region, but we're kind of seeing a break right here in the dust, and we're indeed grateful for that, which means that it's going to be pushing westward as soon as all of this brown right here that represents Saharan dust is out of here. Keep in mind that this map is valid for 2 p.m. on Monday, so more than likely all of this should be out of the eastern Caribbean by Tuesday, then spreading and clearing out to the rest of the Caribbean by mid-week. But we're definitely going to be continuing to be plagued by the Saharan dust across the ABC Islands, the Windward and Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. So there might be some hazy skies. There might definitely be some amount of respiratory illnesses being triggered in some persons. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus that we're going to be receiving those lighter shades of blues to darker shades of blues plaguing the Caribbean tomorrow. We see the purples right here to the north of Colombia as usual, and that's because the winds are not going to be that strong at all, more so in the way of those bluish greens and those brighter shades of greens that we can see by the key on the bottom right that represents anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 up to 20 knot winds. As usual, the strongest winds right there to the north of Colombia and northwestern Venezuela, where we see those yellows that represent up to 25 knot winds. And we can see the general direction across majority of the Caribbean for the winds to be coming in from the east. As related to the rainfall forecast now, we're looking for the consensus with where the rainfall is expected, and we definitely see that we have a lot of rainfall to experience still to come for section of the Bahamas, Florida, section of Mexico, Cuba, some isolated showers for section of Jamaica, section of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. And the thing is, if we look at the GFS model, we're seeing some of the same things happening there. So even some isolated showers are going to be in store for those areas that we just spoke about. So sections of Dominica, Martinique, section of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we just saw getting in that rainfall, Barbados, section of Trinidad and Tobago, not to mention section of the areas south of there. So even if we look southward, as usual, northern South America is always getting in on the mix. So definite sections of French Guyana, Suriname, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, sections of southwestern Venezuela, Colombia for the most part, Panama, Costa Rica right there, even section of southwestern Honduras, southern Belize, Guatemala, section of Mexico and El Salvador. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. And we know that when they're in consensus with this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.